Hey, Maggie Reardon here. I'm standing outside the Federal Communications Commission in Washington, D.C., where I just sat down for a chat with Chairman Ajit Pai. He's proposing a rollback of Obama-era net neutrality regulation. These rules, passed back in 2015, make sure your broadband provider can't block or slow down your access to the net. So I've been covering the net neutrality issue for at least a dozen years. Why do we have to go through this again?
Well, I think all of us favor a free and open internet, and the only question for the FCC at this point is, what's the best legal framework for securing some of those core values that have given us the digital economy that's the envy of the world? And that's part of the conversation that we'll be kicking off on May 18th.
Okay. So I know a big piece of this is this so-called Title II regulation. Right. That's the utility-style legal framework that the last administration built their net neutrality rules around. But I also noticed in the proposal that you're asking the question, should the bright line rules, the no blocking, the no throttling, should those even be rules? I mean, what do you think? Should there be rules to protect net neutrality and to keep the internet open, or should we just let the broadband providers police themselves?
Well, I've continually said that I favor a free and open internet, and the Clinton-era light touch approach is the one that I think has produced unparalleled benefits for consumers. And so from an administrative perspective, when we kick off a conversation, we want it to be a robust conversation, to tee up all of the different possibilities and let the American people give us their input as to what they think the best framework should be. So
do you think broadband providers are really capable of not discriminating against somebody like a Netflix or a not even yet developed Netflix?
Well, this is precisely why some people say Title II is necessary. Some people say no regulation is necessary. I've consistently said that, look, the Clinton-era light touch approach is the right one. Let the marketplace develop, and if we see an example of any competitive conduct, then you can take targeted action to address that problem. But that's part of the approach that we hope to embrace on a bipartisan basis going forward, just as it was embraced in 1996 by President Clinton and a Republican Congress.
So this issue has become so partisan, right? Yeah. We've got Republicans and Democrats really entrenched on either side. Why is that?
I'm not sure. Some people speculate that because our politics generally are much more polarized now, that has infected communications policy. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I'm committed to making sure that I do everything I can to lead the agency on a bipartisan basis. And when it comes to broadband deployment, for instance, we've had several votes under my chairmanship that have been unanimous in nature, getting more broadband to unserved America, removing some of the regulations that stand in the way of carriers being able to deliver digital opportunity to citizens who are on the wrong side of the digital divide. I mean, those are the nuts and bolts. That's the nuts and bolts work that the FCC traditionally has done, and I'm proud to say we've done it with Republicans united with Democrats.
But it does seem that there are still a lot of issues that are Republican-Democrat,
right.
And nobody seems to be budging. I mean, are these based on sort of traditional core Republican-type values versus core Democratic values, or where is the divide here?
I'm not sure where it is. It's, I mean, partly it might be just because of our politics generally, as I said, but I continually believe that, look, when it comes to broadband, there is no Republican affiliation or Democratic affiliation to a particular idea. I met with a senator recently, and outside his door, it had a poster of JFK where it said, let us not search for the Republican answer, let us not search for the Democratic answer, let us search for the right answer. And naive though it might be, I continue to believe that at the end of the day, Americans want better, faster, cheaper internet. And the ideas from the FCC that get us there don't know a partisan affiliation. And so that's the spirit with which I'm going to continue to embrace this job.
So should Congress step in and do something? I mean, this issue has flip-flopped a couple of times, right. And that is, you know, creating uncertainty in the market, I would imagine. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately that's the best long-term solution. Part of the problem we've seen over the last several years is that the agency increasingly is trying to shoehorn the marketplace of 2017 or 2015 or 2010 into this round hole of 1934 legal frameworks or 1986. And ultimately, I think it would be great for our elected officials on a bipartisan basis to just tell us what you want the rules of the digital road to be. Those are the decisions, I think, that ultimately stand the test of time and gain public support. And I'm convinced that people acting in good faith when they sit at the table could be able to reach that kind of consensus.
And Republicans, have introduced something, but Democrats are a little hesitant. They're saying, this isn't the time. Do you think we're going to get bipartisan consensus?
I hope so. That's a decision that they will have to make based on their own political calculus. But if I can be of assistance in helping to forge that consensus, I stand willing and able to do so. Because as I said, ultimately, the internet is so important that it's important, I think, for our elected officials to codify some of these key principles so that we can move on to the debates about how do we get more access out there to unserved Americans. I mean, those are the issues that I think the FCC is squarely empowered to tackle, and I'm committed to tackling them if we can.
Okay, well, thank you so much for letting us come in here and do this interview. We really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, Maggie. It's been great.
Okay. This is just the beginning of the net neutrality rewrite. On May 18th, Pai's proposal will be open for the public to comment. He's promised to have a new set of rules finished by the end of the year. But all this could change if Congress decides to push through its own set of rules. I'm Maggie Reardon with CNET.